understand. I love Harry Potter as well. I sent my dad to Universal, and I was like, I need you to bring me back a wand. And he's like, what? Like a real wand. He's like, it does magic?
For me, it does.
Right.
For me, it does. I know you don't understand that because you're a muggle, but...
Hey all, Amanda here. Welcome to entry 75 of Great Beer Adventure. Happy December! As you may know, I am a mom, so December is full of getting into the festive spirit and making memories with my kiddos. And it is no different here at Great Beer Adventure. Our next two long shows will be looking at kids in the beer world. We start out on this week's show with Lisa Sturgeon of Geaghan Brothers Brewing. Hey everybody, I am sitting at the table today with Lisa Sturgeon of Geaghan Brothers Brewing, and we are actually at the brewery, so hopefully you can hear some bottles in the background because they're bottling today.
Yeah, they're bottling and labeling today. It's a little busy Friday here.
Yeah, it is a Friday. It is a rainy Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I did not wear the right boots. I have rain boots, and I should have worn them, but I didn't know, and they wouldn't have gone with my dress.
It's all about the dress.
It really
is. It is all about the dress.
I love this dress. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you, other than the very tiny little glimpse of who you are that I gave the listeners, can you kind of expand on that and let the listeners know exactly who you are?
Yeah, so I am Lisa Sturgeon of Geaghan Brothers Brewing. I am the communication and resource manager here, as well as Chief Geaghan Wrangler, as the owners like to call me. Pretty much a Jill of all trades, masteress of few, and do pretty much everything from marketing, communications, PR, and HR of our over 85-person company.
Now, part of that is why we're here. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about being in the beer industry, and we're going to look at a little bit of a different variation on that because you left out a big piece of who you currently are.
So this is a new thing for me, and that's, I don't know, that's usually not how I introduce myself, but
for purposes of the podcast, we need to know.
Newly pregnant, I guess, is how you would also say what I am. Newly pregnant. Yeah.
Newly pregnant. I am also newly pregnant. I am not. Nobody, please, nobody listening. I am not newly pregnant. Mom, there are no buns in my oven, too, when we're done. You put out a really adorable announcement.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your baby announcement video?
So my husband, a little backstory, my husband and I both work at Geaghan's. He started at the company before I did. And so I came on board 2 years ago. He's been here for 5 years. And we've developed our love of craft beer together. He started it before I was 21. And I was lucky enough to skip the cheap beer phase of your early 20s. Went right to the good stuff because he's a few years older than I am. But we decided that beer is a big part of our lives. It pays for everything that we do. It is our sole source of income for the both of us. And so what better way to announce to the world that we are multiplying than by showcasing that we are brewing a baby. And so I wrangled a couple of our other employees to have a little bit fun in the brewery one afternoon, and little fun take on the old nursery rhyme, sugar and spice and everything nice, and that's what little girls are made of. And we brewed a baby.
Yeah, you put some really interesting things into that brew kettle.
Yes. Yep. So had to have appreciation of sports. My husband and I are big baseball fans, but also appreciation of arts. So a picture of Mona Lisa went in there, a flower to represent gentle and kindness, and of course a Harry Potter book because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. I'm just gonna put that out there. I understand. I love Harry Potter as well. I sent my dad to Universal. Like, my dad goes down to Florida, and he was going to Universal. And I was like, I need you to bring me back a wand. And he's like, what? And I was like a real wand. He's like, it does magic? And I was like, well, no.
For me, it does.
Right.
For me, it does. I know you don't understand that because you're a muggle, but...
Yeah. And so he brought one back.
Good job, Dad.
Yeah, I don't know that he was exactly happy about the fact that he brought one back, but he did. And he's like, I could have just gone out and cut you a piece of tree.
It's not the same, Dad.
It's not the same.
I was never lucky enough as a child to go to Disney or Universal. And so the first time I went to both was a few years ago, and my husband and I went after our wedding. And it was amazing how they just immerse you in the wizarding world. Piping in music and the smells and everything is what you imagine it would be. And so you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, and I'm going to totally dress up. I will be part of the Gryffindor school. Absolutely. Even though I think technically I'm a Hufflepuff. I can't do that. Maybe I'm Ravenclaw. I can't remember which one I am.
I'm a Ravenclaw. Brian's a Hufflepuff. We've decided that the child will be sorted in its own house, and we're not going to pick the house for him. So, yeah.
That's big of you. Okay, but that's not why we're here either.
Digressing just a little bit. We're sorry about that.
The baby and the pregnancy. So for me, I was just starting to get into the beer world a little bit when I became pregnant. I was starting to do some beer blogging, and I had to quit doing that because beer just was horrendous for me. Like, the smell of it, even if I knew how amazing and wonderful it was, I still could not make my mind know what it was truly. Now, it was okay for me to quit because it was just a blog and it was just a hobby. You can't do that.
No, I can't. As you can see, my office is in a production brewery, so I am surrounded by beer all the time. Not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but some days it feels like that. And so I luckily haven't had any smell aversions to beer, which is lucky. It has made attending beer fests and beer events a little interesting, especially when people ask why I'm not drinking. You get a whole host of different reactions, but so far everybody's been great, and it's been a great, widely received new addition to who I am.
Yeah, so that must really change the events, because I know that, if you go to a festival, even the brewers, sampling their beers, sampling other people's beers, you can't do that anymore.
No, and that's to a certain extent. I mean, there is many different schools of thoughts on what is proper alcohol consumption for pregnant women. And in the United States, many doctors say it is 0. But there's been a lot of new research out, especially with so many women now in the craft brew industry, about sampling. And that's something that I think every person takes their own individual stance on. As a parent, you're going to be brought with a lot of different situations, and each parent handles those differently. I wouldn't say that it is proper to judge. Everybody's reasons are different on why they're doing certain things. I can definitely say that I'm not drinking at a beer fest or drinking a full beer, but still sampling the beer, especially if a new beer comes out, and just having a sip is important to my job. Knowing how to market that beer and what that beer is important. And I feel like there's such a negative stigma in this country on women in the beer scene, and unless we start talking about them and having these conversations, that's not going to change. But if you go to Europe, people still have beer. If you go to Ireland, Guinness is actually encouraged while you're pregnant. And so different cultures have different viewpoints, and being comfortable with what your level of comfort is really important.
There were about 3 or 4 weeks at the end of my pregnancy where I felt okay. I felt as big as a hippo.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel sick. And during those few weeks, most beer still did not smell great, but I was able to sample some at that point, and I don't know that I'm completely against having a sip here, a sip there. And in fact, I know I'm not against that. But do you think it would be harder if you had a more, like you were talking about, having to market the beer, so you have to sample it?
Yep.
If I know that, and this is the case with people that are in your position that are gluten intolerant.
Yep.
So if you can't drink the beer, either because you are pregnant and you have a strong line, or you're gluten intolerant, I gotta imagine doing your job would be a lot more difficult.
It is. And I mean, we have a great crew here that does a fantastic job. Everyone here, when a new beer comes out, everyone samples it and gives its feedback on what the characteristics are. And we develop a beer description basically based off of that. And so there is a way to be able to get a general idea of what a beer is if you have a very hard line. But I know some women, I follow the Pink Boot Society on Facebook, and this is a common talked about thread, is women that are actually brewers and testing the quality of beer. And it's really important that, sometimes if you're the only brewer and you happen to be female and pregnant, why should that stop you from testing the quality of beer? Again, we're not talking about drinking a whole beer. We're just sampling it to make sure that it's on par with your standards.
Right. Yeah. I gotta imagine just like the logistics of being in this space as you get more pregnant, you physically change some. So I gotta imagine that. Have you started thinking about how that might impact being in the brewery?
Yeah, I mean, so right now we have two other females, ladies that work here at the brewery with me. One's on the production side, one works at our tasting room, and then the rest is all gentlemen. And they could not be more understanding and appreciative of my current situation. And I think that that's what we all look at it as. A lot of people have the stigma of it's a disability, and that's unfortunately what it's characterized as. A medical term is short-term disability, which is painful. I mean, why is that painful? Or why is that a thing? And so, I think as things progress and things change, I'm going to have to adapt to that, but I don't view this as a disability or a long-term change. This is my current situation, and it's going to change.
Yes, the whole short-term disability thing.
Why it got categorized as that and why that's still a thing, I have no idea.
But none whatsoever. It just frustrates me sometimes. But that also starts thinking about the whole idea of maternity leave. Mm-hmm. Now, you're the only one that really does your exact job here.
Yes.
So what's going to happen then?
We have already started planning that. I've been in this position for 2 years. So while I think many have gotten really used to me being here, they also know that they can exist for at least a short term without me. And so we've already started thinking about the Lisa on leave plan and who's going to take over some of those roles. And I think we have a great team, regardless of who is out for whatever reason. It's a family business. We come together and make sure that things get done, and also try to make sure that that person, regardless of why they're out, feels comfortable while they're out. And so I've already been told not to look at my emails, and I feel like the more that they keep telling me that, the more it will sink in eventually. But we all know who I am.
Yeah, we got to turn that function off on your phone. Make that happen. How long do you plan on being out for?
2 months. So when I came on board, that was something that we had the conversation of before I was even hired, because that was starting a family was something that was important to me. And so we had discussed that even before I came on board, that when the time came, being out for at least 2 months is where I wanted to be.
And what about paternity leave? Well, your husband works here too. Will he be taking some time off as well?
Yep, he gets vacation time as well as flexible vacation time. So he's working on getting some overtime maybe and seeing what happens. But I feel, again, it's a family company, and they're really understanding about flexible schedules. Even now, regardless of having a pregnancy, they realize that we have a life outside of work. And a lot of employers, I feel, sometimes don't realize that with their employees. And so they're just really a great, understanding family to work for.
So I'm going to start venturing towards the whole women in beer thing for just a moment. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to live there.
Yeah.
I need to use it for a minute.
Okay.
So I was listening to this other podcast. It's called Beervana. I can't remember which episode it was, but I will find out and put it into the show notes if anybody would like to listen to it. And they had a panel discussion with all these women. Mm-hmm. And it was over on the West Coast. So it was in Portland on the West Coast. And a lot of them were saying, like, it seems like in their area, there's not a lot of issues with, like, men and women. It comes up. There's definitely times when it comes up, and it's more people outside of the beer industry.
Yes.
have issues with women being in the beer industry than the beer industry seems to.
Right.
But they were saying they were wondering if it was because it was so West Coast. But I feel like here in Maine, we have that same kind of feel. I hear all these horror stories. But do you think it's because we're here in Maine that, or is it just Geaghan in particular? Like, why do you think it's just such a, this is your current situation, but it's not really an issue?
I think that's Maine. I look at several other breweries that recently have had kids, Megan at Tumbledown or Christy at Foundation, and they bring their kids to beer festivals. And Christy brought her daughter to the Craft Brew Summit. And people in Maine, and I think that's a Maine thing anyway, is that we are just so family oriented, especially most breweries in Maine are family-run businesses. And so it has that level of understanding of family first. And regardless of what the situation is, it should always be family first. Your job can't cuddle you at night, you know? No. So I think that's really important. And everybody in the Maine beer industry has been nothing but supportive, I think, to those women and to me.
Yeah, I think New England, there's that whole, the craft beer culture feels like it's more of a family and community type of thing. And I'm hoping that with this rise of craft beers, and I mean, there's this huge surge in the past couple of years where it's just blown up. And I'm really hoping that with that expansion, that craft beer culture is more family oriented.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have a child in this point of my life, in this stage of my career, because it's going to be raised in almost a European cultural environment of kids being okay in bars and kids going to beer festivals. And the most important thing, though, is alcohol not being this taboo thing, them being raised at a very young age that is something that needs to be respected and be participated in responsibly and learn the do's and do nots, but have a very open view of it and not have it had this Americanized cultural taboo thing that I feel like we as a society have put on alcohol. We can debate alcohol laws at another podcast, but everywhere in Europe, the alcohol age is way lower. We can talk about transportation and all those things and why that is lower, but it's viewed in a completely different way. And so I'm really excited that my kids are going to have that same view. I feel like that is a main craft thing, and I'm still dealing with people, as you had mentioned, outside of the craft beer world of what's it like being a woman in the beer industry. And it's the 21st century, people. It's not this new thing anymore.
And to get on that, it never was that thing.
Correct. Yes, and I've never been a wine drinker. I've always been a woman who has loved craft good beer, and supporting local people. By drinking local beer, you are supporting local dreams and local families. And at the end of the day, what more could you want with that?
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. I mean, I really feel like that kind of kicks right to like what Maine is. It's about supporting your neighbors, and it's about being there. And so I feel like for me, the craft beer world here in Maine just really like highlights all of that.
Yes.
You know, it's the ingenuity of like being able to do it yourself, being able to, you know, help out your neighbor, supporting everybody. I really feel like that is tremendous. So, have you gotten any like baby beer centric gifts yet?
Surprisingly, no. It's been mostly all Harry Potter themed, which is pretty funny.
So you're going to have to get it like a little Geaghan onesie, though.
Yes.
Are those made yet?
Yes, we have them in the brewery. They are available.
That's good. That's good because, I mean, it's obviously like go to the hospital and you have to bring the baby home and something, and obviously it has to be Geaghan branded.
Right, of course. I mean, that's who we are, right?
Right. Now, for me, with each of my kids, I had a beer.
Yep.
Like, some people take champagne to the hospital. Pfft, no. I brought beers.
Well, okay, so going back to your question, have I received any beer-centric gifts? And I said no. One day, one of our head brewers, Ryan, showed up to my office with a growler of Imperial Stout. the freshly brewed imperial stout with a little tag that said do not open until after May. And so he knew that stouts and porters are my favorites and knew that I wanted to be able to actually enjoy this beer more than just a sample. And so he filled a growler, and now it is cellar aging in our house for probably not the hospital visit, because at 8.5 that's probably a little too much after 9 months of not really drinking.
Yes.
But I thought that was very sweet.
Now, you guys have, he must have put it in one of the growlers that was more, like the top is...
No, so if you do a growler and keep it at a constant temperature and do not open it, it can last up to 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even with like just the spin top?
Even with just the spin top. Dark, cold, don't open it. We don't know a lot of people that have the capacity to not open it for 6 months, but we did actually get a report from somebody that actually had a growler of our unfiltered wheat from last December. It is currently October. Asked me what the normal life of a growler was because they opened it and it was still fantastic. And
wow.
I said, as long as you like it, it's still good to go. Out of all of our beers, that one probably is not one that ages the best that long, but it was great to hear that it still was up to their standards. With an imperial stout, those aged for years.
Oh,
so
yeah. I made a really bad choice in mine because the alcohol percentage was so high.
Yeah,
but Pretty Things made this really adorable baby tree beer, and come on,
yeah.
I had to. It was adorable. It is a little creepy if you like take a minute and look at it because there's like babies, like pieces of babies in a tree.
I'm sure my husband's is going to be Pretty Little Something from Maine Beer Co.
Yeah.
That will probably be his. I'm not a hoppy drinker.
A tiny beautiful
yeah,
something.
tiny beautiful something. That will probably be his, and mine will probably be our Presque Isle Blonde, or just because it's very light and refreshing, and it will be May. Although my current due date is Cinco de Mayo. And
mine was too.
And so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, April 30th.
Yeah. I everybody asks what your due date is, and I'm saying spring because it might be April, it might be May, who knows?
Right. Yeah. No, Charlie was a Cinco de Mayo baby.
That's awesome.
Every once in a while, I'll look at a baby picture and be like, oh, and then I'll realize like what I'm thinking. I'm like, no, that is horrendous. There was actually one night we were sitting at the dinner table, and it was for some strange reason going okay, and nobody was trying to stab each other with a fork or anything. And
you had that brief moment of...
I did. I was like, we could totally do 3. And then I vomited in my mouth. I was like, well, no. That was the worst idea I've ever had in my whole life. So no. We have fixed that. That is never happening ever again. But with the brewery, that is my baby beer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is the beer that will... And they're gone.
Yeah.
I hunted down another bottle of Maddie's before, like, because they had announced that they were closed, and I like called up all kinds of places. I'm like, I need Baby Tree.
Yep.
I need it. And we opened it on her 5th birthday.
Aww.
Yeah, and we actually got to enjoy that whole one, because the other one we couldn't enjoy the whole thing because it was like a ridiculous percentage, because it's like a quad.
Yeah.
And I was like, cheers.
I'll sleep now, which might have been the best thing for
It
you.
was. And then with my youngest, we did, they had a Once Upon a Time series.
Oh, yeah.
From Pretty Things, and so I did that one. But to get back to Brian's A Tiny Beautiful Something, I was at Maine Beer Company, and they have that on a little onesie.
I know. It's so cute.
It's so cute. I'm like, that is absolutely perfect.
We one of our good friends had a daughter a couple of years ago and named it Zoe. And so we got them one of each. So it was a Zoe and a Tiny Beautiful Something as well. So it was cute.
That is cute. See, beer can be adorable.
Right.
Right?
And those were both named after their children. So it was named in honor of those. And so knowing the story of the beer and the family behind the beer is part of the whole beer experience. And I think that's part of why I love working in this industry before I was even pregnant, is that because it is, at the end of the day, about helping each other and helping your neighbor, like you said, and just being a part of the experience.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say earlier.
Perfect.
We talked about, just briefly about once a baby has been born, what it's like taking him to events. And I actually, in 2 weeks from today's episode, we will be releasing an episode with Christy Mahaffey from Foundation about babies in breweries and bars.
Yep.
So you are right dab smack in the middle of baby month here at Great Beer Adventure. I promise there is no announcement coming after this. I just have kids, so...
Right, and it is a thing, and I feel like, going back talking about the sampling for a moment, some people aren't comfortable bringing a baby into a bar, and that's your prerogative, and some people are totally fine with it. You're going to be faced with those situations, and as long as you are okay with it, and at the end of the day, everyone is safe, I hate seeing all of this mom shaming on Facebook and social media, and it is in a culture that we live in. Everyone has an opinion, and that's fine. You're hearing my opinion today, and some of you may agree with it, some of you may not agree with it, but we're all entitled to our opinions, and at the end of the day, that's what parenting is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do go more into that in 2 weeks, so make sure that you are on the lookout for that episode. And you're right, there's, and we go into this more. It's really about being accepting, and I love that about the Maine beer culture, and I've started getting out into the world past Maine, and I'm finding that wherever I go, I hope that I don't ever run into anything else.
Yeah.
Because...
And I feel like people that aren't part of the industry or part of the culture yet are...
I like the yet.
Yeah, are accepting and want to be a part of the experience and part of the culture, and once they know that it's a comfortable place to be, they're okay being there.
Yeah. I mean, even for non-beer drinkers, I think that there's definitely a place. So many tap rooms, including your own, have not beer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you guys have a nitro coffee.
We have a nitro coffee, and we have root beer in the cooler. And so kids are welcome. DDs are always welcome. People that just don't drink but are socializing with their friends and family that do enjoy craft beer. We want to be a place that everyone's comfortable.
Right. I mean, because there's so many fun things happening at breweries.
Right.
Lots of cornhole.
Lots of cornhole, lots of music, lots of good conversations,
yeah.
And a lot of great people coming together and making Maine just a better place to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hope for you that you don't get the Kate Middleton.
Thank you.
Because I rocked that. We were talking earlier, and I made that cool before Kate did. She's just trying to be like me.
Yeah, at this point, it's the morning sickness is not a thing. I'm just tired, but naps are cool, so I'm pro naps.
I just want to say, welcome to life now that you're just tired, because that's your life.
The thing though is like I can't have caffeine right now. I've given up caffeine, and so that's my thought. That's my goal, is that when I can't sleep and I remember these days once the baby is actually born, that I'll actually be able to enjoy the coffee or the sense of caffeine helping me, which I can't have right now.
Yeah, I don't drink caffeine on the regular either. I was intolerant to it for quite some time, and then babies do weird things when they're in there, and the second one actually made it so I can drink caffeine. I don't know why.
It fixed you.
She did. She kicked something right in the right spot. But the coming down still isn't good. Like, I get major headaches. So for the most part, I do decaf.
And again, that is a whole parenting prerogative. As long as you are happy and your baby is happy and healthy,
right,
and your doctor is okay,
Yeah, I missed sushi.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing right now, is I miss sushi.
Yeah. I made my husband go out and bring sushi to the hospital. I was like, no, this needs to happen.
Yeah.
Both times. Both. He's like, I don't have to go get tuna again, do I? You better believe you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so very much for sitting here and talking all kinds of things.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have one last question.
Sure.
You're not the only Geaghan family member that is pregnant at the moment.
No.
So, seeing we've got a couple new Geaghans coming along, will there be any kind of special Geaghan beer?
I don't know. So,
like one without Harry Potter stuck in the middle of it?
No. So our front house manager, Brandon, and his wife, Marie, is also expecting their first child just a month before our little one makes its way into this world. So it is a little baby feverish here at Geaghan's, don't worry. We tested the water. We tested the beer. It's not contagious.
That's good.
Good
to know.
You're safe. But it's definitely interesting. But all of our beers have a family tie to it or a Bangor story. And so who knows what the next realm of inspiration might be.
I don't know. You guys have some pretty amazingly drawn labels. I can see some really cute little, like, you know, you could either do the whole, like, tiny clothes on a clothesline, or you could do, like, little babies sitting back, too, in their little diapers.
Yeah. We're very,
stuff.
that's where we're very cautious, though, of not making it look like we're advertising to children. And so that's where we draw the line of making that responsible alcohol choice. And so
maybe like a mom pushing a pram.
Yeah. Yeah. Like mom beer. Totally cool with that.
But anybody can drink it.
Right.
Maybe
Totally.
it's like a mom and a dad, like arms linked.
Right.
Pushing the stroller together. I don't know.
Whatever it is, but we have a great crew of brewers. Our brewer Ryan, who brought me the Growler a couple of weeks ago. His son is turning 2 this year. Our owner and head brewer Andy has 2 little ones as well that have been here and are already saying that they can't wait to work at the brewery, which is still a few years away. But it's all about family and coming together and being okay with who you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we should say cheers, but I don't know. With paper cups, it's a little weird, so...
Clink.
Clink. A giant thank you to Lisa for joining me on today's show. Congrats on the new edition. Listeners, a special thank you to you all for listening in. Do you have any words of wisdom to share on the matter of being pregnant in the beer world? If so, please reach out to me on Twitter @GreatBeerADV. Also, check out the show notes for a link to another interview that Lisa and I and a couple of fellows recorded before we sat down to talk babies. GreatBeerAdventure.com/075. And as a special holiday treat, I have 8 bonus episodes coming your way. They will start on Tuesday and continue through the new year. Join me next week as I go visit an old friend. And in 2 weeks, we continue our Kids in the Brewing Industry series. If you all, our fabulous co-adventurers, would like to support the show, check out our Patreon page. For less than the cost of a beer, you can show us some love. Go to greatbeeradventure.com/support. If you want to see even more from our adventures, follow us on Instagram @GreatBeerAdventure. And be sure to subscribe to the show. That way, you won't miss a thing. Great Beer Adventure is part of the Great Pint Society. Cheers.